All right. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. For those who can't see, we're in an open bay here with all open bay doors behind us, so that's why I'm taking my mask off while we talk. As you can tell outside, we are beginning to welcome what is now Tropical Storm Henri. But the key message for our community is it's not about the name, it's about the rain. And this is still a very big, possibly slow-moving storm, which means that we're likely to get an awful lot of rain over the course of the next day. We're still also likely to get some very significant winds. And the projections on just how high that wind is going to be vary, but we have to be prepared for some very significant winds that are going to bring down trees and power lines. So the message today is very similar to our message yesterday. Our teams are out there doing what they can to prepare. Our DPW team was out there all day yesterday and early this morning, checking those storm drains, making sure they're clear, coordinating with the MDC, which has been out there cleaning catch basins, and with Eversource, which has been pre-positioning resources. And we also have called in a number of additional police and firefighters for today to make sure that we've got the resources to provide any support and any rescue assistance that's necessary. In a couple minutes, I'm going to turn this over to our DPW director, but I also want to say I'm really grateful to be joined this morning by Congressman Larson and Senator Murphy. Our federal delegation has been in close contact with us and with cities and towns throughout the state over the last couple of days, and we're really grateful for that. And as you know, Governor Lamont has already sought a FEMA disaster declaration, and our federal delegation is a critical partner in that, a critical partner making sure that federal resources are available, and hopefully that we're able to get some financial assistance to the extent that this storm imposes a significant financial burden. But before I turn it over to them, I also just want to stress that while our teams are out there preparing and pre-positioning to respond, there are still things that you can do. So if you've got a basement that is prone to flooding and you haven't already moved things out of it, clear that basement. Protect your things in advance. If you don't already have your phones charged or batteries for those flashlights, now's the time to do it. The power could go out when that wind rises. If you don't already have water and groceries, you maybe have a little time to go grab them, but once we get to midday, we're really encouraging everybody to stay off the roads and stay put and just hunker down. The other thing that we've been asking folks to do, and I just want to reiterate it here, is number one, if you've got elderly neighbors, neighbors who you think may need a little help, homebound neighbors, just wander over and check on them, knock on the door and make sure that they're okay and don't need anything. And then number two, if you've got a storm drain near your house, if you've got a catch basin near your house, keep an eye on it. If it's clear now, great. But if you start to see debris accumulating as the rain comes and as the winds rise, clear it off. I can make a big difference in making sure that that can continue to flow smoothly. Now, I want to stress, like we did yesterday, we're also asking for everybody's patience through this storm. This could be a very big storm with a lot of rain. We got a lot of rain a couple of days ago, and the ground is already saturated. That means that we could see some really significant flooding again. So we will do everything we can to respond, to address those flooding areas where they rise up. But please be patient with us, and please understand that we may be getting a couple of 100-year storms in the course of a couple of days, and the system's just not built to absorb that well. So lastly, let me just say that if you do need any help, or if you see anything that you think needs the city's attention, The quicker you can bring it to our attention, the better. So call it in. If it's a true emergency, obviously you can use 911. You can use our non-emergency lines for anything that you just think needs to be dealt with. And again, once we get another hour or two past right now, once we get to midday, please stay off the roads. Just unless you absolutely have to be out there, stay off those roads. There's no reason to put yourself in a position where you could get stuck in floodwaters or where you could get hit by a downed tree. We do expect that there's a really good chance of road closures throughout this storm. So just stay off the roads. And as I said yesterday, pick out those board games, pick out some good movies, stay put, hunker down, and ride it out. There's a few additional pieces of information that I may share later, but why don't I turn this over first to our Director of Public Works, Mike Looney, for any quick additional updates from DPW. Mike?
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. Right now, we have the bulk of our department in and actually out on patrol right now, checking out catch basins, make sure they're still clear from all the work we did yesterday. Our sanitation crews are out. Any garbage containers, recycling bins that have been put out, we're just tipping those this morning, just so we prevent anything from getting airborne or being in the road in terms of debris should the winds get stronger as we go on through the day. We're also making sure bulky waste is picked up and other items that we see that could be obstructions in the street or obstructions for catch basins. We're trying to get out and make sure we've got that all cleared up. And we're sort of in a watch and wait mode and see how these winds might pick up later in the afternoon. Right now it seems the storm has tracked a little bit east of what was expected initially, so that is, I think, good news for us from a wind perspective, but it also may lead to us getting a little bit more rain. So we do have to prepare for the possibility of having heavy flooding rains, which we are doing now. We have our forestry crew and our street staff who support them in terms of removing down trees and clearing wood debris. We also have two tree contractors in with heavy equipment to address those issues as fast as possible. But as the mayor was saying, as soon as you see an issue, please, by all means, get in touch with us and let us know so we can respond rapidly and keep things under control. So that's really the latest from our department. I'll turn it back to the mayor at this point.
Great, thanks, Mike. One other quick thing I meant to share. If you're on a street that is typically prone to flooding, we encourage you to move your car to higher ground, to drier ground. We've made a number of lots available throughout the city. Most of them are the blue light lots that we use during snow parking ban emergencies. So the way to check that is to go to hartfordct.gov, our city website. Again, I don't want to go down the whole list because it's a long list of lots that are available to you. But if you are in an area that's prone to flooding, we encourage you to move your car off the street, both so that it doesn't get damaged and so that our first responders don't have to use their resources checking on those vehicles to make sure that everybody's okay. Now with that, I'm going to ask our incredible federal partners to say a few words. I just want to say, I'm not sure there are a lot of mayors who've got members of Congress and senators who don't wait to be called, but call first and say, what can we do to help? And at a time like this, that makes a big difference. So Congressman Larson, thank you for being here, and over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Bronin, and I commend the mayor, I commend Governor Lamont for being way out front and preparing for this, and a tip of the hat to the public servants, and especially Public Works, as you just heard Director Looney talk about, the effort that is ongoing by them. And heed the mayor's words. Listen to your local officials. Contact your local officials. But whether it's the fire department, whether it's the police department, emergency preparedness, common sense and practical application is important. Listen to what the news media has to say. Stay in touch so that you're aware of what's going on. And as the mayor elaborated, also check in on your neighbors, especially those who you think might be in need. And as he also indicated, stay off the roads. Stay off the roads, you know, and I think people in the media may know this, but not everyone, but more drowning accidents happen with people in cars who end up going through deep water and get trapped. So heed this advice, stay safe, let's ride this out. But I wanted to thank the mayor. I'm honored to be joined by Senator Murphy and the entire delegation that led a letter to the president, to FEMA already, putting the federal government on notice as they are, and our ability to respond and make sure that the resources that are going to be required during and after this event with Henri, that the federal government is there to help. But again, I want to commend the governor and the mayor and all those public servants that are out protecting us. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thanks, Congressman Larson. And again, really grateful, Senator Murphy, for all your calls and support and for your being here this morning.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor. As a relatively new Hartford resident, let me thank my public works team, the city's public servants, for the tremendous job you do every day. Mayor, thanks for being vigilant, as always, about protecting the residents of this city. And again, let me add my thanks to the governor, who will be at the Emergency Operations Center all day today managing the statewide response. Just a few things to add to the discussion. First, let me talk a little bit about the federal-state partnership. We have been in constant touch with FEMA over the last 48 hours. FEMA has pre-positioned assets in the New England region, including generators, food, and water, that can be brought to Connecticut as early as today to help manage the response. As both the mayor and John mentioned, we have already sent to the federal government a pre-disaster declaration request. We're essentially putting the federal government on notice that we are going to be requesting a disaster declaration, and that will help us get reimbursement to the state and to towns more quickly. Once this gets declared a disaster, and I think our expectation is that we will hit those thresholds, at least in some counties in Connecticut, we qualify for federal reimbursement. Now, depending on how bad this storm is, we may seek supplemental appropriations. Often, the normal course of FEMA reimbursement can cover the state's cost, but in exceptional cases, Congress may need to pass an additional emergency appropriation. So we will be sort of watching the response, watching the costs that are being incurred by state and federal governments, and we will do everything possible as a federal government to make sure that Connecticut's costs are covered. Next, let me just talk about the private sector response. We've got great crews here in Hartford that are going to do their best to mitigate flooding. But often the most difficult response comes from the private sector, comes from the electric companies, the cable companies, and the internet companies. I'm going to be heading straight from here to Eversource to meet with them, to make clear what our expectations are when it comes to getting power back on, should people lose it. I'll be on the phone later today with the cable and internet companies, and that message will be delivered jointly by the delegation to make sure that they understand that the amount of time that it took in previous storms to get the lights back on, to get people's internet connected again, was unacceptable and cannot become the norm. So I know that Eversource is pre-positioning crews and assets here in Connecticut, but we are going to be vigilant to make sure that if we do lose power, and I think we all expect that there will be some power loss today and tomorrow, maybe exceptional levels of power loss, that we demand better response, much better response from Eversource and other private utility companies than we have gotten in the past. And lastly, let's be clear about what's coming after this storm, a heat wave. We're expecting temperatures nearing 90 or in the 90s for the rest of the week. So that plea that the mayor made to keep an eye on your vulnerable neighbors, we're asking that you do that not just today and tomorrow, but throughout the week. Because if we lose power, then we lose the ability to cool our homes. And if we have a heat wave coming, we are going to have to pay attention, especially to our most vulnerable, about the need to potentially get them to places where there is cooling available. And we'll be working with the governor to make sure that there are cooling centers and the mayor set up around the state if necessary. So be vigilant today, but be watchful of your vulnerable neighbors throughout the week, because if we have power loss followed by a heat wave, we're going to continue to have people in potentially dire situations throughout the week. So listen, as a delegation, we obviously know that our mayors, our first selectmen, and the governor are the ones that are really managing this response. We're here as backup. We're here to help coordinate the interaction between the mayors and the governor and the federal response agencies, and we plan to be in constant communication over the course of today and tomorrow. So, Mayor, thanks for bringing us together today.
Thanks so much, Senator. I also just want to echo the thanks to our governor and the governor's team. As you know, they're working out of the Emergency Operations Center and have been in constant communication, and we really appreciate that partnership, in an active, constant partnership in preparation for this storm.